I'm Trevor Woods. I'm the executive director for the Northern Plains UAS Test Site, and we've got a special edition here of Beyond the Buzz with Senator John Hoeven. Really appreciate your willingness to join us today. You've been a really big champion for unmanned aircraft systems in North Dakota since I can even remember, and I know that there's a lot more history there than most people realize. And so, really appreciate this opportunity to hear a little bit from you as the early and continuing leader in this space, and really positioning North Dakota to be the premier place for unmanned systems, all things unmanned systems. And so thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Trevor. Great to be with you. Really appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. So let's start with just like a big, broad opening, question here. You've been a really strong advocate for this since even before you were a senator, because you were the governor of North Dakota prior. What was the vision behind this? Can you take us back on what you saw in North Dakota, what you saw in the ecosystem that led you to say, you know what, we're going to do this. We're going to be the place for this United States to champion the integration of unmanned systems.
Sure. Happy to. Again, great to be with you. And actually in 2005, that was the last round of the BRAC, Base Realignment and Closure Commission. And at that time, we had tankers at Grand Forks Air Force Base, and we had F-16s, the Happy Hooligans at our Air Guard, and which was great because I'd flown with them a number of times. It was fun. We did refueling missions with the tankers. I mean, it was awesome. But both those missions, in essence, were slated to go away, and we had to decide what was next. And we actually felt that by going into unmanned aviation, we would be looking to the future. And so we ended up with Global Hawk mission at Grand Forks Air Force Base, and at that time it was the Predator mission for the MQ-9 with our Guard in Fargo. And so that kind of got us thinking, and I had set up a group headed by, at that time, our Adjutant General, Mike Haugen, called MIND, Military in North Dakota. Really clever, right? But the whole point was, how could we put some legs on the missions that we had? And again, it was this whole idea that the unmanned aviation was the coming thing. And so one of the big focuses, probably the biggest focus, was how do we really, build on this unmanned aviation concept? And what we came up with was setting up a Center of Excellence for Unmanned Aviation Systems, UAS, at University of North Dakota, because the John D. Odegaard School is the most advanced school of aerospace training in the world. And so we thought, well, let's. I had a program called Centers of Excellence when I was governor. Let's set up a Center of Excellence for Unmanned Aviation Systems at UND, and we did, to build out really an ecosystem on the civilian side to build off what the military was doing with unmanned aviation, and actually fly UAS in the NAS, the National Airspace.
Excellent. And I will, little fun factoid, my entrance into this ecosystem was through that Center of Excellence. I was hired by none other than Al Palmer,
great
who
guy.
was the director of the Center of Excellence at the University of North Dakota at the time. And so I appreciate the vision you had, because that led me to where I am at today. And so,
that worked out really good.
It worked out good for me. So
it worked out good for the state of North Dakota.
Well, and as we look now at 2025, we have one of the 7 FAA designated test sites. I might be a little biased in this statement, but I think we are the premier. We are the one that everyone looks up to. What do you think has made us so successful as North Dakota, having a test site, having all these assets? What has made us successful? What is leading to the federal government and industry to trust North Dakota with this mission?
Well, it's possible someone would say that I'm somewhat biased, but ours is the first. That's without dispute, but also absolutely the best. In 2011, when I went to the Senate, I worked on legislation that required that the FAA allow 6 test sites. That was the initial legislation that we put through. I have 6 test sites for actually developing UAS in the NAS. And the purpose of that was because we had been working to try to get FAA approval to fly unmanned aircraft in the national airspace. And the answer was always no, because if there's nothing up there, you can't have an accident, and their whole mission is safety. And so by passing that legislation, we actually said, no, you have to. And then, of course, they went forward, and we were the first one. Obviously, I'm very involved with that and passed that legislation. But our guys had the experience with FAA and all that, so we got approved right out of the gate. And the secret has been Partnerships, 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 partnerships. We have, I mean, so many partners, I can't even begin to list, whether it's local, state, federal, whether it's on the government side, whether it's on the private industry side, whether it's civilian side, military side. We have partners like nobody. We believe in relationships, and for 20 years, we've been building them, and it's worked just great. And that's why, I just think it's incredible, not only what we have now, but I think there's so much potential for the future as well.
I agree. And maybe related to this topic too, why is this so important for the country? Not just North Dakota. Obviously, we have a lot of benefits to this in the home state here, but why does the country need this to be a priority?
Well, look at what's going on globally. I mean, look at what's going on with the war between Russia and Ukraine, where Russia sent in, I don't know, hundreds of drones here recently, and actually, Ukraine's been very effective at fighting back. Interesting, not only in terms of what we think of as drones, flying, through the skies and being such a huge part of, frankly, changing warfare. I mean, used to be all the tanks rolled out. Now that, the tanks are like hiding from the drones and all the advanced weaponry that we have. But you notice that on the Black Sea there is not a lot of fighting, even though Ukraine doesn't have a navy, because again, these drones and this autonomous weapon systems have actually forced the Russian Navy back, into their part of the Black Sea, because it's so effective. So it's absolutely changing the nature of warfare. But then look at all the civilian applications too. And I used to do this more than I do now, but I used to say, it wasn't that long ago, the idea of this, we couldn't even conceive of what this could do or how ubiquitous it would be. And we are now seeing that with UAS, both drone and counter drone opportunities and challenges, not just in the military, but across civilian applications.
I agree. And as the test site director, we're seeing the clash of these two sides of it, not only on the defense side of things, as you're talking about, and then the commercial side. The dual use benefits of this technology is, the anticipation of that is going to be really relevant. And I like to say, just my anecdotal observation, whatever we do in North Dakota is probably translatable to 70 or 80% of the rest of the United States when you consider the air and the ground environment. Maybe we don't have a New York City in North Dakota. We have Fargo, of course, but a lot of what we see in North Dakota, you can extrapolate out, and I think we could really scale what we do in North Dakota to the rest of this country.
Absolutely, and we're on the border as well, so that and CBP is one of our key partners, so a whole nother dimension there as well.
Agreed. You mentioned partners earlier, and I want to highlight one of the partners is actually the state of North Dakota itself, and having continually funded this effort. As you fight this good fight here at the federal level, and you bring these opportunities to North Dakota, the state side of this is another balancing piece of this. And we've been fortunate that our legislators at the state level have continued to fund this. The executive branch, some of your successors, Dal Rimple after you, and then Burgum, of course, have continued to champion the mission locally. And one of those things was this program called Vantis, which is infrastructure in North Dakota to enable beyond visual line of sight. And I look at this very supplementary to everything you've been fighting for. We've taken your vision and we've multiplied it. And so from a federal perspective, I know you've kind of seen a little bit of what's going on in North Dakota with us trying to advance infrastructure. And to me, it's like building roads for cars, but we're building roads in the sky. We're putting up radars. We're working with industry so that they can actually fly beyond visual line of sight. But from the federal standpoint, how does infrastructure like Vantis, like what we're doing in North Dakota, help solve the national problem, the defense problem, the state problem, everything we were talking about just now with defense and civil application? How does infrastructure at the federal level help with that?
So technology always runs ahead of government, certainly. Private industry drives technology, and government is always kind of trying to catch up. And that's absolutely true with autonomy and with unmanned aviation and all the other applications that go with it. And that's true, like I say, both on the military and the civilian side. And so, of course, that's what you see happening is the technology is running forward very fast. FAA is trying to keep up. And that's where the state of North Dakota has been just incredible. In about 2015, we went to work. We got an enhanced use lease from the Air Force, which enabled us to work with Grand Forks County and the Grand Forks Air Force Base, Air Force writ large, and set up Grand Sky Technology Park. Grand Sky Technology Park now has brought in the foremost aerospace companies in the world, both large and all these small, incredibly entrepreneurial companies. And the key is that we've got to have the ability for them to fly unmanned aircraft in the airspace, in and around North Dakota. And Customs and Border Protection does that along the border. And so in order to do that, you've got to have the radars and the sense and avoid systems, and you have to have the credibility with FAA to get the certificates of authority, COAs, to get approval to do it. Because of our test site, because of the incredible record of UND, the John D. Odegaard School of Aerospace and Aviation, because of the incredible work that you all have built at the test site, and this great relationship with FAA and your credibility, your professionalism, such that FAA knows you guys are pros and will do it right. We then have been able to translate that into authorities nobody else has. But you have to have the ecosystem. The ecosystem is driven by the technology. The technology means you got the sense and avoid, back to where I started here, and the radars to do it, and that's what Vantis is all about. We have approval to fly large unmanned aircraft in our airspace in and around the Grand Forks, from 70-mile Conus down to Grand Forks, the border, and all of that, because the state of North Dakota has invested not only in the infrastructure to create Grand Sky Technology Park, which is unbelievable, to help us set up, along with some federal funding, but to really invest in the test site and then build these radar and sense and avoid systems, Vantis, on a statewide basis and beyond, that enable us to fly the aircraft, which other places can't do. So again, it's these partners investing in a way that everybody that wants to do something comes to us, because we have the ecosystem, we have the technology, and we have the approvals to do it. That doesn't happen without Vantis and the state support and investment.
I agree, and I'm glad you mentioned Grand Sky, and
I want Dale Rimple was bought into it. He was my lieutenant governor, then became governor, so he was certainly bought into it. Burgum was bought into it in a big way, and Kelly Armstrong has jumped on it with both feet, and he's been just phenomenal. So I want
absolutely
big, and the legislators.
Yes,
those guys, huge kudos. And I'd start naming legislators, but Senator Scott Meyer, of course, works with Grand Sky, Mike Nathan. But I got to be careful, because there's so many of them, and they've done. But big kudos to the governors and the legislators.
One of the things that I think that I've observed is North Dakota really is that one team. We're a really big small town. We are able to coordinate with each other. We're able to set aside differences and get the job done and really see these opportunities. And so I'm glad you highlighted all that too, because to your point, to reemphasize, the legislators have been key in funding this, and the executive branch in all of our governors, to include Kelly today, is critical for us to continue to drive
right on
forward.
And Mayor Boshensky and Mayor Brown before him, the city council and the county commissioners and their vision. Again, just a lot of people with a lot of hard work and vision.
And you mentioned Grand Sky. I've done one of these with Tom Sawyer as well. And I like to highlight that when he focuses on the ground infrastructure, I focus on the air infrastructure. And that's why we have such a great relationship. And that's led to things like Project Ultra, for example, which you've been a really big champion for. And, with that, I would like to lead into the next question here. At the federal level, you really drive things that for innovation and regulatory advancements for UAS. And the test site has appreciated that. I come to you after I've done everything right, and I say, hey, look, we need a little bit of a boost here. We need a little bit of help, and you're able to find pathways, whether it be through legislation, whether it be through phone calls, whether it be just through advocacy in advancing things and unlocking innovation. As you reflect back in your time, whether it be as governor, as senator, what's the one thing that stands out to you that you're most proud of?
In regard to the ecosystem and so forth,
whether it be legislation, whether it be funding, whether it be something that you helped champion that really made a difference.
It's hard because what I'm most excited about or most appreciative of is this incredible partnership we've built over a 20-year time frame. That means we are leading. We're the lead dog in this whole effort. With unmanned aviation development, drone, counter drone, all these kind of things. You mentioned Project Ultra, which is going to be key there. bringing a lot of entrepreneurial companies. They're already flocking our way because of it. It's hard to say one thing because I could go back and say, well, the Center of Excellence, or I could say the legislation that set up the test site, or I could say, getting the enhanced use lease from Air Force so we could do the tech park, the work we've done with the military, where we now also have the Space Development Agency in there with the whole LEO satellite. We're now a key player for satellite or TRMC, and developing hypersonics and the whole Sky Range program. So I can't, if I had to put that all in one basket, it's this incredible array of partners and team members, the approach we've taken.
Yeah.
I think that more than anything is the key. Like success has many fathers, and of course failure is an orphan, but look at all the people we just got done. We can't even list them all, but we're all working together. And I think that's what makes us unique and special. So I'd have to kind of wrap it up into that approach that I believe is the right approach.
I agree. And you said it's overnight success that's been 20 years in the making,
yeah,
right?
100%.
Yep. And I think that's the best way to summarize it. There's no one piece that has made this be the critical aspect. It really is. All of this has just worked in together, and the ability to grind through this over time. When others, including some of our federal agencies, have tried to ignore the problem, we're trying to advance the problem. We're trying to push the problem forward and actually make pathways towards innovation and growth and development.
Exactly right.
You mentioned, many times here there's a theme is partnerships, and like how these partnerships have really worked together, as you've already emphasized. Why has that collaboration worked so well? What's the magic to that success of? Is it the environment? Is it the funding? Is it the political support? Why do you think industry and government have been able to come together and really work on that over 20 years to get to where we are today?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One, I think it's just the attitude that everybody's had that they want to be a part of it. They recognize that it takes everybody working together, and that you need all of these things to make it work. We just got done talking about how all these different parts fit together. And the more that we have good relationships, the more we have other people come and want to develop more good relationships. I think a little bit of serendipity. I mean, if we'd said, 20 years ago, if we'd have said, gee whiz, we think UAS is going to be the next big thing, and it flamed out and we totally wasn't, we'd, I guess all that effort that we started, probably wouldn't have gone anywhere. But in fact, it's turned out to be like a huge thing. I mean, if you think about a satellite, it's unmanned aviation, right? I mean, so it's at all, from the ground up and beyond. Now we're doing Grand Farm down in Fargo, thanks to, again, some really creative, amazing people. So that, I think, would be the third point I'd throw in there is just fortunate to have great people. I mean, Tom Sawyer, he wasn't even the first choice, but thank goodness we got him because he fit like a hand in a glove. You just got done talking about your great relationship and how he covers the land and you cover the air. And that's what I mean, just the right people all working together in with the right attitude.
You mentioned satellites being unmanned systems. I'm glad you brought that up because I think where I see this going beyond just the unmanned aircraft itself, we're seeing things out there in the aviation space called advanced air mobility. And you know what? It's an unmanned aircraft that has now grown and developed to the point where we're moving people. And you've driven in the state of North Dakota. Sometimes it can be some long hours on the road, right? I wouldn't mind taking a nap while I'm flying somewhere, right? So, I highlight that this has really grown bigger than just the unmanned system itself. And I think we're going to see a big advancement in the aviation side of this, where we're going to see how North Dakota can play a key role in this. But then you mentioned Grand Farm, and I'm glad you brought that up because then we have another critical part of the North Dakota economy, which is agriculture. And we've got things like Grand Farm with Greg Tavine advancing things there. Like these partnerships have been benefiting these other sectors. Do you see any other big impacts in the North Dakota economy because of advancement in autonomous systems, whether it be satellite or agriculture?
Oh, I think it's going to be a huge part. I mean, I think we're going to have a very dynamic, whether it's precision ag or whether it's the aviation and aerospace, whether it's for national defense, whether it's for border security, or whether it's for all of these civilian applications, like you say, moving people. We are now, as you know, through Project Ultra, which you referenced earlier, we are now moving uh, various kinds of, not people yet, but a lot of different things from Grand Forks Air Force Base to Cavalier Space Station. And we're doing that through Project Ultra. We're going to do that once a week. We're going to move all kind of different things, blood supplies for the hospital, a lot of different stuff. So some of it's military, some of it's civilian. We're going to make it routine. And once we make it routine, then not only will we expand the applications ultimately to moving people, but we'll expand the ability to do that both in the national airspace as well as overseas. So, and then in the whole agriculture world, we're leading the way forward. I mean, you can't do all the applications on the ground without the GPS information that you get from aerospace and space. Also, for our military, this is vital for the security of our country. And I don't mean just at the satellite level where we have to have the high ground, but all these systems where we take the bad guys out wherever they are globally, whether it's in a military confrontation or through our intelligence agencies. We're able to do that because our technology is better than anybody, including China. And Grand Forks ecosystem is a huge part of developing that and making sure that we are staying ahead.
You actually mentioned Representative Mike Nathy earlier. He's been him as well as several other key legislators, and like you, I wish I could name them all. But they've actually advanced legislation at the state level for investing in non-Chinese based systems, right? So North Dakota is also leading the way in helping that fight by bolstering up the local supply chain with our local companies to bring solutions to North Dakota.
Addressing all that is incredibly important. And again, it's not just about in terms of the military technology. It's about what we're doing in terms of our farmland and all that kind of thing, and not having other countries control our farmland and our food supply.
This actually segues wonderfully into my next question, which is really about national security and economic competitiveness. And we touched on it earlier with the Ukraine-Russia war and how that fight is changing things. And so we know that this doesn't just benefit commercial innovation. You've highlighted this. Can you elaborate any further on how North Dakota is really helping this nation in terms of not only just economic competitiveness, but also national security efforts? I'll highlight one thing and then I'll stop. You've been a rather large champion in bringing members of this federal government to North Dakota to show them what's actually going on. And I think that's been a huge strategic advantage. You're able to pull that off, and they don't know until they see it. And so, with that strategy in mind, like how does North Dakota continue to scale and remain competitive and really remain strategically advantageous for this nation in our fight nationally?
So we have the finest military in the world. I mean, it's all volunteer, incredible training. Our men and women are absolutely the best, combat tested for the last 20 years, unfortunately, with the war on terror, but they are the best, hands down. We need to always make sure they have the best equipment and the best technology. So we have to stay ahead. And you know how fast technology moves. So you can't use the old paradigm to develop that military technology because they can't afford it. They can't take the capital risk and the timeline for them to do it the old-fashioned way. By the time they develop it, it's already antiquated because the technology moves that fast. So we have to have, and we do have, a new paradigm. And that's why when we talk about Project Ultra, that shows how the paradigm works, where we, in this case, in case of Project Ultra, it's $100 million authorization. And we've got this incredible ecosystem we've built. Now think drone and counter drone. The military can't sit and try to develop that technology fast enough because the offensive weapons run ahead of their ability to respond. But companies are out there doing that all the time. So now the military can say, okay, we need drone and counter drone solutions, or CBP can say it, or whoever needs, or law enforcement, whoever needs the application, and they could actually come to Grand Forks and say, okay, there's an array of companies that develop these products. Here's our specs. Show us the solution in terms of the technology and whatever it may be, drone, counter drone, whatever it is, that fits our parameters, and then that's what we'll either co-develop or acquire. Now you shorten the time frame and you reduce the investment risk for the military to develop these cutting-edge technologies and always stay ahead of our competitors. And that applies to everything we do from the ground up, meaning not only what we think of as ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, but all the way up to satellite. The satellites are totally changing. These aren't going to be these big old multi-billion-dollar satellites where if they take one out, we're in trouble. We're putting up thousands of small satellites whole different strategy in this LEO system, which will be controlled out of Redstone Army Base in Alabama and Grand Forks Air Force Base in North Dakota.
I was just going to mention Grand Forks Air Force Base is a key lead in that effort right there. So, we'll last question, and this is a really open-ended one, but what's next? What do you think the future looks like here? We're talking about a lot of things that have been happening and are in real time happening at this moment, but as you kind of look into the future, what do you think's over the horizon here that is related to UAS in North Dakota?
Well, you're going to see more companies continue to come in. We're talking to them all the time. And it's not just the larger companies that, whether it's General Atomics or Northrop Grumman or General Dynamics or Raytheon, all the ones that, the big guys who are incredible that you hear about all the time. But these really smaller entrepreneurial companies that, are developing all these new products. But we really need right now drone and counter drone solutions. And it's not just that we've tied in the whole ecosystem like we're talking about in Grand Forks, where, out of the Grand Sky Technology Park, because of the test site, we can fly manned, unmanned, civilian, or military aircraft all off the same runway. But now, obviously, we're tied into our air guard. We're going to have a data center down there that supplies a lot of this work, particularly with the Sky Range program for the for the DoD, Department of Defense, and then also tying out to Camp Grafton at the Army, which actually has the joint lead for all of the services on counter drone. And we can't be shooting down these drones, the old style, with a Hellfire missile or even, a 50 caliber machine gun. We have to be taking these down through not only through directed energy, be that laser, or by taking control, or just actually causing the system to fail and fall down, or take control of the thing, best of all, or of course use directed energy as a laser. At distance, think of our ships. We can't let it's not just on land.
Yes.
And you saw what Ukraine did with Russia and taking out a bunch of their bombers. And this is a real and present threat that we're solving for our military. So I mean, they're just so, and again, we haven't even gotten into all the civilian applications other than a little bit about grand farm and agriculture, but it's again, this stuff is really ubiquitous, but we're the place that's going to develop a lot of these solutions.
Absolutely. And bringing the federal piece of this, I mean, real time related to that
real time
is the fact that we actually have barriers and constraints with authorities and ability to test and validate these systems in the United States.
But see, 100% on real time. You can't develop a solution that is ready to go in 5 years. It ain't going to work because we need it now. And that's the difference. We because of our ecosystem, we have all these companies that have solutions now that we can put out there and find out, separate the wheat from the chaff. Yeah. What's the real solution? And that's what, military or whoever it is says, okay, that's it. It works. I know it. I've seen it up in Grand Forks ecosystem. That's what we'll acquire and use.
I agree. Well, that's it for my questions. I'm looking right now, and I don't necessarily see any questions from our audience members that have dialed in. And so, I just want to take this opportunity to really thank you for your time. I know your time is valuable here out in DC as you fight the good fight. Any last comments for our audience before we close this out?
Well, just appreciation for the incredible partnership, for the great work, Trevor, that you and everybody else at SWR and the whole team's doing, all the elected officials like we talked about. And I think as long as we continue that approach, I think that, we'll be successful, because we're in an area where there's just incredible opportunity. And like I say, we've been at it for 20 years. And I think the best is yet to come.
I agree. Well, thank you, Senator Hoeven, for your time today. I want to thank all of our viewers for listening in and tuning into this special edition of Beyond the Buzz. If you're interested in learning more, of course, visit the Northern Plains UAS Test Site website, our social media like LinkedIn. Also would encourage looking at the social media for Senator Hoeven here. You broadcast a lot of great announcements and great visits that happen both in the state and here at the national level, and I always appreciate looking at that. So until next time, thanks again for tuning in, and we will end it here. Thank you.